You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers, but we got Garrett. What's going on, Garrett?
Hey, Ryan. I got a suggestion for you. When it comes to the AI stuff, Chris from Alabama had made a great suggestion about maybe a female voice for a sportscaster for the news and stuff. And I think he's on to something when it comes to, a little bit of, like I had talked about earlier in a call, a little bit of variety, a little bit of diversity and stuff like that. But
I know what you're saying.
When it comes to the voice, it's not going to be a female voice. But, who doesn't love John Madden? And what if the sportscaster's voice was kind of like a John Madden type? A little stumbling, rumbling, tumbling kind of dude, who's going to complain about listening to, the throwback voice of John Madden? So there's a suggestion. I don't know what other guys think, but maybe we should call in and give a little bit more voiced opinions on stuff, positive input your way. Try to, kind of polish this up a little bit more. It's already, the content, don't get me wrong, content's already excellent. But we're just trying to make some suggestions, maybe help you along the way that makes your job a little bit easier. So don't be a people pleaser. Just do what your gut tells you is right and do it, Ryan, because your content, your podcast, you're doing something right because you've been doing it for quite a while. And I've been listening to you now going on since 2017, 2018. So you're doing something right, Ryan. So just keep up the good work. Keep working at it. The AI thing will come to you eventually. But, Sal is starting to grow and increase in popularity. I think you just got to give it a little bit of time. And, there's always going to be bumps in the road when it comes to progress. So everybody's just got to chillax a little bit. I'm out.
Well, I'll be completely honest with you, and you can probably thank the anti-AI people. The only reason that there aren't like 6 AI podcasts on here right now with like a John Madden and all the different like fun things, honestly, just because I think it would be funny. And like I said, I don't take things super seriously. I like to screw around, have fun. Is because I know some people out, like I swear it's like 70% of the population just has a visceral reaction toward AI. I still don't know what it is. I've never heard anyone articulate what the problem is, but they just get angry, and I feel like it's just they're gonna not be able to handle this. It's just it'll be a bridge too far, and they will. If they're nice, they'll just walk away and never listen to anything. Not even my podcast. It's like, no, I hate you for doing AI stuff and everything you stand for, and I will burn your house down or something. I don't know. But no, I'm gonna keep playing with it. I'm having fun with it. I enjoy it, and we'll see where she leads. And again, I don't have a problem getting feedback on stuff. I don't want to do things, because mostly because it's a waste of my time to do stuff if people hate it. What's the point? But as far as being a people pleaser, I haven't done that since day one. I kind of just looking for honest feedback. But as I said, I can't trust the feedback. I think the people that dislike things are going to be the ones to speak the loudest. And I almost get no feedback when I ask for it. So, I guess you're all happy with it, so we're just going to keep on keeping on here. I'm just going to keep doing whatever the hell I want. And we'll see where that leads, you know what I mean? But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about what come down the old pipe there. Again, I think Sal's here to stay. It's just a question of if and when there is a second thing. Will I get rid of something else I'm doing and then add that, or will it just sit on top? And then what is it going to be? You know, I don't know. Whatever feels right, I guess, is what it will be.
I almost forgot, Ryan. I'm going to play this game of caller roulette, and I'm going to call my shot. I'm going to say the next caller is Jared, the Uber driver. I'm out.
I love caller roulette. I will say, though, this is the biggest fail in the history of the world because you picked Jared, the Uber driver, to be the next caller, and the next caller was you. So that was an easy W for anybody that wants to be the first winner of caller roulette to pick yourself. But we'll say after you, we'll see if it's Jared, the Uber driver. All right. But Garrett, part 3.
Hey, Ryan, Script from Southern Illinois. Real quick, I have to strongly disagree with you about something. You were just commenting on Packernet After Dark about naming rights, and I am one of those that I agree that Lambeau Field should be untouched. They can tighten the belt like the rest of us have in this economy and figure out other ways of how to come up with the money that they need rather than taint what everybody knows is a, hallowed ground. But the other thing is, what I'm disagreeing with you about is you had suggested throw patches on them like NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
The uniforms are sacred, in my opinion. You should not have anything on them. Now, the patches that they've always had on them is a commemorative patch that either has to do with how many years they've been in the league or something to that effect. But I do not want to see Quick Trip patch on the Green Bay Packers jersey. This isn't the NBA. This isn't NASCAR. This is the NFL. The NFL makes enough money. They can figure out some other way.
Yeah, but the NFL isn't what's struggling to make money. It's the Packers. The NFL is making tons of money. The question is, how do the Packers keep pace with the other teams? And if we just say that everything is sacred and nothing shall be touched, the point is, it's not about tightening your belt. It's about bringing in revenue. The Packers have to bring in revenue somehow. Other teams have avenues that the Packers don't have. They have more real estate. They have more money so that they can build all kinds of luxury hotels and all these things. Every other team has a leg up in terms of all the money and all the space and all the things that they can do. And then on top of it, we have less resources on our side in terms of what we're able to do. We can't give naming right. We can't do this. We can't do this. And now you're saying that the jerseys are also sacred. Okay, so we can't do jerseys. We can't do naming rights. Everyone else can do naming rights. The gap is massive. So again, that's fine if you don't want to do that and you don't want to do that. My question back to you, though, is how do the Packers make enough money to keep pace with the LA Rams? The Rams have, or the Cowboys. That's the question that's being asked. And the point is, in order to keep the naming rights off of Lambeau Field, in order to keep us a viable franchise, we are going to have to find ways to bring in tens of millions of dollars. And that's just off the top. And then you've got teams selling their naming rights for $25 million. So you got to come up with $25 million somewhere on top of all the other money that you have to find. Let's just call it 15 to go on the low end with some of these other teams. Where do we find that? It's not a belt tightening issue. It's not an NFL issue. It's a team revenue issue. And all these other teams are not having problems with revenue. It's the Packers that are going to have a hard time with revenue. I'm not saying I want to see patches. I'm just trying to come up with some solutions here as to where this money is going to come from.
And to commit sacrilege and put a freaking patch on their uniform. Now, if they want to do it like they do with the practice uniforms, go right ahead. I don't care. But on Sundays, those uniforms should be untouched. They can figure out something else to come up with the money. Like I said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What is that? I mean, it's very easy to say no. You know what I mean? I mean, I could say no to everything I don't like. No to the naming rights on anything. Not the practice field, not the stadium, none of that stuff. No to patches, no to anything that I don't like. Okay, what are we saying yes to, though? That's the question.
I'm kind of getting tired of them talking about money troubles when these GMs are making millions, the coaches are making millions, the players are making millions, while the people that are paying for all this is making less money these days. The dollar does not go like it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It does not stretch like it did. They need to come to a realization that Americans are under stress. So I'm just getting real with you and a little serious. This has got to stop. They need to start tightening their belts like the rest of us. So maybe they need to all take a pay cut and just suck it up.
Well, again, it's just a question of how do the Packers keep up with the Cowboys? The Cowboys are not struggling for money. The Rams are not struggling for money. The NFL is not struggling for money. The Packers aren't struggling for money. It's not a question of really struggling with money. It's a question of if you want to be able to compete, you have to be able to have the same resources as that team, or just accept that we don't have the resources, which I mean, I'm not willing to accept that. The Packers just saying, well, we're just going to have smaller staff and smaller this and smaller that and less resources and a disadvantage to be able to compete because, you know, we're not willing to do all these things. That's the other option. No, I want you to win. I want that's 100,000%. I need you to win. And in order to do that, they have to be able to pay the salaries of these coaches the same amount that the Dallas Cowboys have, who have additional income that we don't have. So that is the entire question. How do the Packers make as much money as the rest of the league? Now, if we start talking about a salary cap for these other things, then those concerns kind of chill out a little bit. But again, this is all just like hypothetical because the topic came up is why we're talking about it. It's not, nobody wants any of these things, patches or anything else, but it's just kind of a thought experiment. Okay, so the salary cap thing doesn't happen. How do we keep up with these teams? What do we do? That's kind of the question. So, I get not wanting to do any of it, but, you know, you got to do something. Garrett, 4.
Hey, Ryan. Last call, I promise, for a while. So, basically responding to stuff as I'm listening to the podcast. So Beer Cheese called in and talked about the Netties, which I think is honestly way better name than what I came up with several years ago when we were talking about this very thing about the callers having an award show. And I recommended it be called the Darkies, and you immediately poo-pooed that one, which is understandable. But, you know, after dark, you get where I was going with that. But the Netties are way, way better and more PC, so it's not going to get you in trouble with anybody.
Okay.
So definitely do this and have, you know, the callers do most of the work for you anyways, like you said. So we just need to keep track. And at the, you know, start of a week, have everybody call in, and you just have a whiteboard set up, and you just basically start writing it all down, and then have the AI tabulate everything up, and have a special, you know, Johnny Carson or, you know, maybe more relevant Conan O'Brien, somebody like that, host the show. So there it is. I think it's a great content for off-season stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I'm down with whatever, so long as it doesn't involve me having to do all that stuff. So if that's what has to happen, where I have to keep track of this and do all that, it's not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. If some of you guys want to go ahead and do that, that's on you. That's fine. You can go ahead. We can tabulate. You know, that's fine. But yeah, I'm not probably not going to do that. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back in a little bit with We'll See Who. Surprise, surprise.
Yo, Ryan, it's your Uncle Rico.
Yo.
I just wanted to let you know, you said hairy critter.
I may have. I don't know. I feel like it's not that bad, but all right. What the heck is happening? Uncle Rico Part 2.
Yo, Ryan, it's your Uncle Rico. This DeCosta guy from the Ravens sounds like a real pancake a pancake-eating motherfucker. Anyway, whoa, I'm beeping again. Hold on, I'm buckling
pancakes.
up. The Ravens Crosby dealio from the get-go. I didn't have to hear anything on that, any information whatsoever to know that the Ravens overreached and got cold feet. You know what do you mean? Like, they got so excited. Ooh, Max Crosby, let's get him. And then about 3 seconds after that, they're like, oh, that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then by the time he showed up there, you know, that was over. I mean, it was over probably about 10 minutes after it happened. They were like, how are we going to get out of this? Oh, it's not going to be a problem. He's got that knee thing or whatever it is. Yeah, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard of. That he flunked his physical. You can't flunk a freaking physical when you can't take a physical. He just had surgery. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows everything about his knee. When I say everybody, I mean like all the teams and stuff. I mean, they know what's going on. They're not stupid.
Right.
They knew what he was going to be when he got there. And, just the physical thing is just an excuse to get out of the deal that they shouldn't have got into in the first place, but they got so jacked about it without even thinking about it, apparently. Anyways, the Ravens, really screwed themselves for the future, I think. And they put the Raiders in a bad spot. I could just imagine. I was talking about that with my coworker when that occurred. I was like, man, they got cold feet. He goes, well, he flunked his physical. I was like, bullshit, he flunked his physical. He can't even take a physical. He's in rehab or whatever, It's not like he's going to come in there and do things that are going to make him change their mind about his surgery. He's not going to be able to take that kind of physical for a year or whatever, 6 months, whatever. I don't even know exactly, but I'm talking out my ass because obviously I don't know any of this shit. But, they took him knowing he had surgery, and that didn't change. He showed up with a repaired body, and it's in its healing process. So there's no way you're going to pass or not pass a physical. Anyway, Rico out. Ravens are PMEMFs. Pancake eating MFers. All right then. Rico out.
Well, I didn't know that my one of my favorite hobbies, eating pancakes, was a slur, but I guess that's, I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's pretty wild, man. Kind of, talk a little bit. Well, actually, that was today on the draft show with the Dan Orlovsky thing. Just people putting their foot in their mouth, just being stupid. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. I look. I think human beings have a very strong ability to just let stuff go. Things get old. Even when people try to make you remember, like a year from now, people are going to be like, "Remember when you didn't?" Be like, "Oh, shut up, dude. That was a long time ago." I think what we've learned is at this point, the Ravens just need to shut their mouth, right? They're probably doing this right. They made their little statement. They lied, whatever. They're going to go underground. They're going to get to work. They're going to hide until the draft when they have to kind of pop back up and do their thing. And I'm sure someone's going to ask them a question about it, and they're going to just kind of be like, "Look, that was a long time ago. We already addressed that, blah, blah, blah." And they're going to move on. But yeah, they just need to be quiet, ignore it, grin and bear, and just power through this thing, and just hope that this blows over. The bad part, again, is that the people that aren't going to forget are the agents and the teams and whatnot who are going to be like, yeah, but you're kind of a scumbag. and I don't think I want to do any business with you anymore. Which is why I said it was a fireable offense, because if you are the owner of that team, my first thought would be you are putting us in a very disadvantageous situation where people are not going to want to work with us, and that's not super acceptable. You know what I mean? All right. Garrett's back in town.
Hey, Back Daddy, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
Yo.
I just saw come across the news wire that somebody was reporting that it is most likely that Micah Parsons is going to be out the first 2 to 4 weeks of the beginning of the season.
Sure.
I don't know about you, but I hadn't really let myself even think that he was going to miss that many games. I was really optimistic and hoping that he would be ready to start the season. But realistically, I guess that's what we're now looking at. And with that, does that change at all your priorities when it comes to going into the draft? Do they stick with who they have? Do they go and try to find a free agent and trade for someone like Sweat who still might be available? Or could this propel them into sticking a defensive end in the second round possibly? I know it's all speculation and anything could change at any given moment. But that just, man, to start the season without him for the first 4 weeks seems like we're already behind the 8 ball. And I guess another question no one's discussed yet. We don't know who we're going to be playing the first 4 weeks. We don't know if we're going to be at home or away the first 4 weeks, and that could really come into play.
Plus, you pretty much know week one's going to be a division rival or some kind of a big game like that. The NFL loves doing that stuff. So you're getting screwed on that one for sure.
As far as how difficult of an opposition are we going to be up against
Probably
first
the
4
Bears,
weeks?
honestly.
Man, that really, really could hamper the start of the season. So I guess we'll just wait. And once we know, we know. But to speculate doesn't leave me feeling too good right now thinking about it. So I'm out.
Yeah, I didn't see any kind of report or whatever what you're seeing specifically, but when we did go over the Edge thing, that was kind of my assumption, just based on the normal timeline. Again, they're even if everybody talks, oh, he's ahead of schedule, blah blah blah. There's just a minimum amount of time. It doesn't matter what the doctors say. It doesn't matter what anybody says. You're not coming back before 9 months. Or whatever the number is that they've determined. I would say 9 months is the bare minimum, which would put them. I don't know exactly when. I think it's relatively early September-ish, which is where you could again you could possibly say that's where the optimism comes in. I don't remember the exact date because I know the surgery date was a little bit later. That was like on the 29th or something, but I'm assuming it's from the time of the tear. But maybe not. It may be from the time of the surgery, in which case then you're talking, the end of September would be the earliest he could come back. I don't know. But I think, I guess I just didn't really know where everybody was at on that. I assumed he was going to be out for a long time. In fact, when I looked at it, I kind of was excited because I was like, oh, he's going to be back potentially sooner than I thought. Now, we don't know when he's coming back. He may not be back for... the timeline is 9 to 12 months. And if it's 12 months, that's basically the entire season. But again, he's already up and running and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm sure he'll be fine pending any kind of setback, which I think we'd probably already kind of know if there was a setback. I'm guessing, he would have some, like Bakhtiari with the swelling, and they're going to have to go back in and they're going to have to do some stuff. Sounds like everything's going great. So I'm guessing it's going to be the bare minimum because he is going to be ready ahead of time. And they're just going to kind of hold him back because they're not going to allow him to come back just because that's what the data shows. Guys that are held out for X amount of time, they tend to, have longer careers, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever the exact data said. I know we looked at it before. I don't exactly remember what it was, but, I mean, as far as does it change things, I mean, I don't think it changes anything for the Packers because I think they were always aware of it. But as far as like as a fan base, does it change? You know, again, for me, this is why I kind of pointed out edge as being a thing because I kind of always was expecting it. If you weren't expecting it, then I'm guessing, yes, it probably is going to change the way you feel about it. Look, I don't remember if it was me or if it was Sal, to be honest. But I know at some point the comment was made, I feel like it was me, but whatever, that you cannot forfeit games. You just can't do that. You cannot, and I know that's a dramatic way to say it, as though we can't win without him. But if he's going to be out, even potentially, right, because we don't know. Let's just say we believe very potentially, because it could be more, could be less, whatever. But we feel strongly, right, at least 50%, that he's going to be out for 4 weeks. I mean, we have been a 7th seed for, 3 years now? And then, missed the playoffs before that. We can't afford to just go, through the first however many weeks. And again, remember, we don't know what we're getting from Van Ness. He looked like he was kind of breaking out, but then he got hurt, and now we switch coordinators and we switch scheme. You want me to promise you that he's going to come in and be a dominant player? I have no freaking idea what he's going to do. We do not have Rashawn Gary. We do not have Kingsley Enagbare. Barron Sorrell really was not very good last year, despite the hype among the fans. Brenton Cox is a complete question mark. I think he took a step when we went to a 4-3 defense, which is entirely possible that he will not be able to. And even if it doesn't negatively affect him, he's not a dominant football player. So, hopefully we get a boost from the interior with Wyatt and Javon Hargrave there, and hopefully Van Ness, and everything's fine. On top of our offense is humming along real well with Tucker being back and Watson being healthy and Golden taking a big step and all that. So we're going to be completely fine. But again, what are you willing to gamble? Now, that's not to say that we know that a person that we draft is going to start day one and be dominant. But what I guess I am saying is if the second round, if your pick is up, and like we've talked about, there are tiers, and let's say there's 4 guys that we feel like would be a good fit. Would you look at one of those 4 being an edge rusher and go, we can wait on edge? I don't think so. I'm not saying it has to be that pick. If it's edge and corner or whatever, we got to have a pretty serious conversation, and maybe we just say screw it and go corner. I don't know, but I feel like edge is a bigger need than a lot of people maybe would consider it to be. Now, with that said, you also don't want to use a pick on 4 games. Not that it would be a wasted pick at all. That's not necessarily the case, but you don't want to make a decision based on 4 games when you're trying to, really make a decision based on the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. But I don't know. I mean, it absolutely makes it discussion worthy. And I think in either direction of we have to do this or we shouldn't do this or we don't need to do this, all of that is out the window. It's absolutely on the table at this point. Let's take our final break. We'll come back. We got one more Garrett and then some other fellows. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan, I guess I was just wondering if you would be able to look something up to determine just who Green Bay is prioritizing in this draft. I was wondering if you had the data accessible to find out with all their visits, their official visits to teams and players, how many have been defensive players and how many have been offensive players. And just, what kind of percentage does that come into play? Who are they spending more time with? And I guess for even more detail, just specifically what type of player are they looking at? What group are they focusing on the most? I didn't know if you had that available to you yet, but I was just wondering if that might just give us a glimpse into who you think that they might, pick more than once in the draft, who they might prioritize as being the most important group to improve on. So there you go. Just a little bit more homework.
Well, it's a good thought, especially because, again, from when I've listened to Gutekunst, it seems to me that he's evasive, but when it comes to corner, he's kind of straightforward. We can't know, that this really means anything. I think they meet with people that they, have questions on or whatever, but it's still interesting enough to kind of peek at it and be like, what do we got going on here? Let me see what I can determine here real quick. We do have to dig into this, by the way, at some point. Some of these, the meetings, there's been a billion of them, but I haven't been keeping up on this list as far as updating the audience and whatnot. Let me just do a quick peek. I don't want to dig in too much because, again, we'll save that for the show. So it's kind of hard to tell. I'd have to go in and kind of clean this up a little bit in terms of positions and kind of look stuff up. For example, there's 9 people listed as DBs. Whether they're safeties or corners would make a big difference. There's additionally 9 corners. So, if all the DBs are corners, that would be 18 total, which would be the number one group. The other one is defensive line. If those are defensive tackles, that's the biggest group because there are 16 total between defensive tackle and defensive line. If some of these guys are edge rushers, though, maybe not so much the case. And in fact, there's only 5 edge rushers, so I would guess some of them are. That's a pretty low number. The biggest absolute number of people that they've met with, interestingly enough, is, well, it's actually a tie, linebacker and wide receiver. Now, again, I would caution not to read too much into that. I would not read this and say, well, I think that just goes to show that they really are interested in wide receiver, which means they don't trust Watson and they're going to trade Reed and they're going to trade Wick. I just think that they're meeting with guys, especially a lot of small school guys. They met with one guy from Wisconsin, probably because he's local. They met with another receiver from Eau Claire, probably because he's local. A lot of other small school guys. There's Clark Atlanta, which is a D2 school, Army, Colorado State, UTSA, Marshall. You know what I mean? Not everybody. Some guys are whatever, or just later round guys are trying to get more detail on. But again, I just would not read too much into looking at which positions they've met with the most. It could mean something. You know what I mean? Especially if it's kind of a weaker class that, we know we're going to have to dig pretty deep to find somebody and we really need to find somebody, whatever. Feel free to read as much into that as you want. My recommendation shouldn't do a lot at all. So, AA Ron, what's up?
Brian, it's Aaron from Eau Claire. I was just browsing along the internet, and I saw a video of Jordan Love throwing out a first pitch or whatever at Brewers game. And then I got sucked into reading all these comments, and it was like, oh, he throws so many interceptions, it must have been a pick. And I found myself just getting, elevated. My, blood pressure started elevating. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what am I doing? This is stupid. This is a waste of time. Can't read people's comments about this stuff because they just...
Welcome to social media.
They say stuff that's so stupid. It's so untrue.
Yeah.
And it's coming from franchises who have no business criticizing another franchise's quarterback.
Correct.
They get a little taste of success. I'm speaking about the Lions, Bears, or Vikings. Mm-hmm. They get a little taste of success, and then all of a sudden they're the big man on the block. Just, your quarterback sucks. Mine is great. All this stupid crap. And so anyways, I just can't do it. I'm just, every time I go on and start reading those comments, I'm just going to have to shut it down because it's not worth my time. And it's just, it just makes me upset, which I guess it's not just football, but it's just anytime people comment in comment sections, and it just starts to get really stupid and ugly and toxic. I just can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm sure you can relate. You talk about it quite often.
Yes.
On your podcasts, but I just can't anymore. I can't spend time on it. I can't spend emotional energy on it. The play on the field is the only thing that matters.
Right.
That's it. All right. Just had to get that off my chest. How do you deal with it? You're in that world every day. How do you cope with all of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it sometimes it can be fun, but usually not. Usually you're gonna end up doing the right thing, what you're doing right now, which is walking away from it and just kind of being like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm not playing these stupid games. That's probably a lot of the time going to be your best bet. I think if you have a podcast, as I do, it can be a little bit more fun, simply because I get to come on here and I think the back and forth is problematic. It could sound cowardly to be like, oh yeah, you want to talk about on your you don't want any pushback. I've done the pushback thing. It doesn't get anywhere. Never in my, well, I shouldn't say never. There have been times where we've reached some kind of an understanding of some magnitude, but generally speaking, there's no coming together here. There's no nothing. There's nothing. It's a complete waste of time. It's stupid. So don't do it. Don't freaking bother. It's dumb. And I think you are doing the right thing, because if you go, it's worse too than just nothing. It's worse than just nothing happening, because people are going to find you and they're going to pile on. And if they don't find you, they're going to go get their friends to pile on you. So, and you're not going to win. Even if you're right, you can't win. It's crazy. I mean, you think your blood pressure's up just reading it. Wait to see what happens when they start gaslighting you. When you start saying absolutely correct things and a bunch of people get together and laugh at you for how stupid you are. When you're saying objectively correct things that everybody on planet Earth knows is correct. That is insanely frustrating. So, I don't know. I would say you could very simply just, and this is what I'm talking about where you can't win. You could very easily just go out and find the stats and be like, here's the situation. You're wrong. He doesn't throw a lot of picks. It's just going to be you're going to get sucked into a fight over and over and over again. So I think, I don't know. I mean, again, for me, I come on here and I rant and rave and it feels good. I don't know if it's going to feel as good to just like go look it up yourself and then just mentally note like, ha, what a stupid idiot. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. It's very hard, I will say, to decide I'm not going to say anything about it. Like, I'm not going to go at that person, because you're absolutely going to want to. But I think you're right to not, because you cannot win that battle. You just freaking can't. So leave it be. Andy from Kansas, what's going on?
Hi, Ryan. This is Andy, still stuck there in Kansas. Been trying to catch up on the program, so hopefully some of these items are not too far out of date. First of all, as far as AI is concerned, as a member of Generation X, I could take it or leave it. Doesn't really change things. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not that excited about it. I mean, I've been listening to Rush for years. So AI, I mean, it's not that amazing, to be honest. You know, I've kind of heard about it for a while now. Because really, is AI able to make a better like blanket fort than we did as kids? If not that impressed. I mean,
Significantly better, yes.
Can AI make a robot or some sort of image or something like that, programmed
Yes and yes.
or whatever, to do a truffle shuffle? If not, I'm not that impressed. I've seen the flux capacitor, so pretty high standards.
Sure.
Right there. So just a few things there about, think about AI. I like Sal. Let's get to some actual
Good
questions or topics that you guys have been talking about. I do like Sal. My biggest disappointment, once again, coming from the 1980s, why wasn't Sal's name an acronym like Daryl? Remember Daryl, 1985? Daryl?
Good call.
Or Kit, right? I mean, you had the chance to make a cool name out of it. I do like...
To be fair, that can still happen. The semi-autonomous language person, I think that is brilliant. I'm glad that it's Sal, because Sal is easy. It's not like Jeremy, like, oh crap, frickin' Jersey, exoskeleton. I don't know, dude.
Persona, though. I like to hear from a different kind of persona. He doesn't talk like you. It's not a reproduction of what you do, just in an AI form. So that's good. I just want something that makes me think. I don't need any podcasts that are always positive or always negative, because those things don't make me think. I'm a mailman, as you know. Once I get out on the route, I'm just I'm following through all the organization that I've done in the office there, and I need something to really, have my mind kind of chew on it. And so Sal's been able to do that. I think it's great that it's 12 minutes, 13 minutes. You can consume it on the ride home.
Right.
It's not one of those where you're sitting in the driveway waiting for a podcast to finish. I like that he's streamlined. It's basically one topic. He's knowledgeable. I'm fine with him having an opinion. I like the different voice. I think that's a big deal. It's kind of like with audiobooks. You want to have a good voice.
Right.
Like I would like Mr. Rogers' voice to read Shel Silverstein poems, but I want Christopher Walken reading Edgar Allan Poe. It's like fitting.
Bro. Why I didn't think of like doing crazy voices like Christopher Walken. Well, there might just need to be like an experimental, like we have a guest appearances coming through,
Thing. Anyway, I'll call back.
Part 2.
Hey, Ryan, Andy again. I hope that the topic of this being able to trade draft picks farther out into the future is not too old of a topic. Anyway, the first thought that I had when I heard about it was the Cleveland Browns have an idea about how to use more draft capital into the future. I just don't think we should be listening overall to the Cleveland Browns when it comes to the economics of trading away picks. They're not very smart about that. But then it got me to think. It's kind of like, lines of credit, right? If somebody really sucks at spending money and they overspend and they don't know what they're doing, if you're their friend, you don't want them to get a longer line of credit. Okay. But what if you're the credit card company? Hey, if this person wants to get into more debt with me, that's fine. Now, of course, credit card companies have to worry about the person filing for bankruptcy and them never seeing the repayment of the loan. But that's not true for draft picks. So are the Packers more likely to trade more picks or to acquire more picks if a team wants to trade picks further out into the future? We're like the credit card company. We're going to acquire more picks. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. My only concern, and this is real, it might create a kind of inflationary value or devaluing, I should say, of draft picks. For example, right, if we wanted to trade for a player and this player was a fantastic player, in the past, a team could only ever ask for draft picks out 3 years. Well, now if a team is able to, give more picks into 4 or 5 years into the future, teams might be more demanding. So if we're in the market for acquiring a player, we don't want draft pick value, to be inflated because you can go further out into the future. But if we're trading away a player, sure, we could acquire for pretty good capital on that. Anyway, I called back.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I said this only works to your benefit if you are an intelligent team. And it works to your detriment if you're stupid. Now, if you're the NFL, again, I don't think you should do this because you want parity, and you're not going to get parity with something like this. If you want parity, you have to basically take away agency. Everybody just does the same things. We should have drafts just auto pick, you know what I mean? And then you'll get parity. The more opportunities you give stupid people to do stupid things, the less parity you're going to get. From a Packers fan standpoint, probably is something that we should want.
Hi, Ryan. Andy again. One more thing about the trading picks, 4 and 5 years out. It's not responsible to do that. It really isn't. And thinking in an economic way, if somebody is, once again, bad at borrowing money, that's a bad idea. But restricting them doesn't make them more responsible. So sometimes some people might be like, well, take a team like the Browns who likes to trade away lots of picks, the Deshaun Watson thing and everything. They might just get themselves into this huge hole by sending out or trading away more picks. We should limit it so they don't do harm to their franchise. I don't know if that's a big concern, but if it is, well, restricting them isn't going to make them more of a responsible team. That's not how responsibility works. You have to feel the impact of your choices. And sometimes somebody has to dig themselves into a much deeper hole before they realize they need help. So just overall, that's the idea, limit it so that teams aren't irresponsible. That's not how you teach responsibility. This year for the draft, I'm always in favor of trading back. Just overall, that's the case. Trading up might be a need. I mean, I think we have to look at the context of, how did we feel about our players last year? If our players were still developing last year and we were fine with that, is that true this year? I'm kind of getting the feeling, and I feel this way too, but other people are saying this. It's like, we got to go. It's go time.
Sure.
We're fine with draft and develop, but the develop part, needs to take over at some point. I mean, the true develop as in we are developed, here's the product on the field. Injuries notwithstanding, man, those are just butters. Last question. What do you think Keyshawn Nixon's trade value is? Can we package a pick and Nixon in trade? Are there teams that would be willing to take him? He doesn't have a very expensive contract. He has experience. I'm not sure if we would actually miss him. We have a return guy now. I think that we could get Diggs back, so we could replace him. And if we can move up, we can maybe replace or acquire a true cornerback piece for the future. So I'm not sure if I've heard anybody mention Keyshawn Nixon as part of the trade value or whatever. I hear about Wicks, but I don't know. Maybe he could give us more. Okay, bye.
It's not a terrible thought. I mean, one of the things that I had mentioned is that I don't really see a massive future with him here, with his age and everything else. I think there's going to be a concern about, do we have enough guys? I mean, if they really like Benjamin St-Juste and feel like he can actually be the guy and they can start, fine. Also, depending on, the draft. I mean, you can't know if a guy is going to be good at football, but I mean, I suppose if you feel pretty good with Benjamin St-Juste and you feel like you probably have some decent depth or whatever, and you can get some decent compensation for a guy that's probably not even going to be here next year in Keyshawn, then you do it. If nothing else, it could absolutely be like a mid-season deal, like what we did with Rasul, where it's like, I'm a little bit wary of doing it, like the day after the draft. However, we could maybe spurn some offers early on of people that are interested and just kind of go into the season. And if during practice and whatnot, because Keyshawn's going to start. But if Keyshawn isn't necessarily super impressive, or some of the other guys are looking ready, some of the rookies or St. Juice or whatever, and we feel like we can actually get by, maybe we pick up the phone and like, hey, you still interested in whatchamadoozy over here? Because maybe we could work something out. I don't think it's a terrible thought. In fact, I think it's a very worthwhile thought, because again, he's a guy that we know is not a part of our long-term future. Even if the Packers like him a ton and they really want him to be, this massive part of our future or whatever the case may be, oh, well, he can't be. He can't be. He's too old. So they're going to have to come up with some kind of a plan for the future. So, yeah, I think that's an entirely fair question to ask. All right. We have 2 calls here. We got a Garrett and an Uncle Rico. So get your calls in, and if we have enough, I will talk to you tomorrow. Otherwise, talk to you when I talk to you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.